Think so?
Yeah.
Hope so.
We rolling?
We're going.
All right, let's get into it. A lot to talk about.
Yeah, what do you want to start with?
Oh, Lord. Pick one.
Give me one.
You know, throw something up in there and see what hits the ground. All right, World War III.
Well,
What do you think? Do you think, okay, so here's a question. Do you now believe that we are in an actual war with Russia versus kind of this proxy, we won't ask, we won't tell, we got deniability in this?
no,
your thoughts?
I still think it's a proxy war.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't have active troops on the ground in combat roles.
Not many.
That-
Special forces over there.
Yeah, I still think they're training, though. I think even that's being manipulated. I think they're training on weapon systems that are being provided. I don't think they're actually engaging in a combat role. That's my understanding of it.
Right.
But I hear some people out there saying, you know, I think they're trying to make it sound like there's U.S. troops, current troops, right? Now, whether or not there's former soldiers,
Yeah, we know
former
that
military
there's a lot of
personnel
those,
they're
you know,
engaging,
doing
possibly.
a lot of
But I'm saying active duty military.
Right.
Right. To my knowledge, they're not actually engaging in combat. They're there
Right.
training on weapon systems, training on tactics.
Advising.
Right.
Intel.
But there's certain people out there that go, oh, here it is, proof. We got people on the ground there. Well, we've known this. I've known this
Yeah.
for, 8 months.
Right. Yeah, the document dump that, the whistleblower that he gave up, I think where I fell on that, there was a lot of information in there we already knew. We
Yeah.
already knew that there was some special forces over there, although I think the government was trying to deny even that.
Sure, I mean...
But we knew. That's how they
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
kind of, it's within our standard of practice of handling these conflicts like that. So
You can't expect
we knew
it.
that they were over there training them. Or like we had said before, I think you brought up, we're going to give them an F-16 and not teach them how to fly it.
Right.
I mean, obviously,
Right.
there's advisors over there, and well, they smashed one of our drones in midair, so we know, we're collecting intel and stuff for them and helping them with that. I think we're closer to a actual war with Russia than we're in a proxy war. Now, I think the pendulum has swung more towards war in my eyes, only because there's, when you look at the pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty much accepted now that, we destroyed that. That's an act of war,
I don't know.
And when you look at the other tidbits of information that was in the document, it just painted a picture for me that we're actually in a war with Russia, in my beliefs. It might not be a full out complete hot war yet where we're sending 100,000 people over there, but we're financing it for sure, which they knew that anyways. But I think some of the eye-opening stuff that came out of there for me was just how much Russia's actually winning this, and that man, would we really be wanting to pour money into this the way we have and resources into this if we knew the real data? You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
the successes of Russia versus the Ukraine, and I think when you paint a better picture of it, I think you would, even people that were kind of pro this war, I think would start to be hesitant to, at some point you got to cut your losses and go, well, because America can't win this war with just money, right? Obviously, or it would have been over with,
Russia wasn't very successful in Afghanistan when we backed them.
Yeah, but our country was different then. They also had the threat of the U.S. behind it, and now we're negotiating from a weakened point in this conflict versus Afghanistan. I think Afghanistan, Russia, other countries around the world, they had to always worry about upping the ante with us. That okay, but at some point you awake the sleeping giant, and then America's going to say, all right, well we're all in, and then it's bad. And I think now, I don't think we have that threat behind us. That I don't think the other countries fear us as much right now. For one, we're financing it, but they know as well as we do that economically our economy's falling apart. How much more money can we send over there before?
As much as we want to print.
Yeah, but eventually our money's worth nothing. If the economy implodes, it happened in the Great Depression. I don't know. I think when you look at World War II and kind of what helped bail us out of our economic problems then was, war. And there's a lot of money to be made in war, but we manufactured a lot of stuff here. And, to convert assembly lines from the things we were manufacturing into manufacturing artillery shells, or, I just seen a report, we're buying a bunch of them again from South Korea. We can't make enough of this stuff ourselves. So I think this time we're negotiating from a really weakened point, and I think everybody knows that. So just my thoughts on it. But
This is the problem with information, though,
Yeah.
right? And the flow of information, because I hear other people saying that the U.S. dollar is still strong enough that we can hemorrhage Russia, and that might be what's happening here.
right,
Is we'll just keep backing Ukraine, and just as Russia just keeps hemorrhaging people, resources,
Yeah,
money,
it's
to the
people
point
that they
that
hemorrhage,
it collapses
Right.
their economy because it's way weaker than ours is,
right,
right? And they have the backing of China, right?
yeah,
And China's economies does not sound like it's doing good at
No.
all, right?
no,
And some believe that we're not in a proxy war with Russia, we're in a proxy war with China.
That-
And Russia
I
is
would
their
agree
pawn
with.
and Ukraine is
Right.
our pawn, right?
yeah. It's
And-
kind of what I would agree with that.
So the US might be getting a 2-for-1 here by draining Russia's resources and China's resources, because China, from the sounds of it, is giving Russia back weapons that Russia had sold to China. So it's
Right.
old Russia equipment, right?
Yeah,
I've also heard reports that we're just getting rid of our old weapon systems, clearing those out, using them over here, and not using our good stuff that's being
Right.
manufactured today for the next hot
Right.
war we enter into.
yeah. I don't think we're giving our latest greatest stuff to the Ukraine. No.
Now that's
They're not getting what are the F-22 Hornet, I think it is the badass guy king right now in fighter jets, I think is the one. And what they were getting F-18s or
I don't think I thought we didn't give them any though.
I thought
I
we
thought
gave a couple.
they wanted to give up some to somebody, and then they were gonna donate them, but they said no, we're not gonna give any at all, because then we'd have actual U.S. aircraft
yeah,
flying.
I don't think they're getting the latest greatest
Yeah.
technology of ours. For one, it would take a lot to train them in it.
Yeah.
Two, you're risking turning over your ace in your sleeve to other people, and if it's captured and reverse engineered, and you're giving up potentially a lot of military secrets. So I don't know. I think we're definitely in a proxy war with China. I agree with that 100%, and I think it's multi-front. We've talked on here. My feelings on it is well known with social media and the influence that's had culturally on us. I think culturally we've been being under attack for a long time, to be weakened. But I think right now it's a scary time, I think, in this country. We're really not very strong right this moment. And granted, most countries around the world right now, economically, are not really doing that well. China's
No.
economy's not doing good. Russia's, I don't know, ever really has done well.
Since
But the one thing I will tell, I read an article that was about the history of wars that Russia's fought. And I guess notoriously, they are known for always having a really rough start at the beginning of a war. Like, they never really do that good in the first half of it, but it's the longer the war drags out, the actual better they do, because they just throw bodies in there, body after body after body, to just eventually overwhelm whoever they're dealing with.
I mean, I hear that, but then again, I go back to Afghanistan. Like, why weren't they able to be successful there?
Yeah, but the only one that was ever successful there was Alexander the Great. I don't even know that we were successful there.
Well, I think we could have been. I think there were a lot of restrictions that kept us there because the money kept flowing for 20 years. So
Sure.
why?
Well, I
Why-
think you could have annihilated all the mountain ranges and just, turned it into a smoking crater in the side of the earth, right? I mean, yeah, no doubt, but I think to go
I don't
in
even
there-
think they had to do that.
I don't know.
I think it was a money thing. I think it was, hey, this is profitable. Let's just milk this baby out. Everybody's making bank here. Why would we want to stop it?
Well,
Why
no
would we
doubt.
want? If we win, then what?
There's a lot of money to be made in that, with contractors. How much money did those contractors make going in there doing work like that? But I think that those guys over there that were just the average hardened person that's used to living a very hard lifestyle, and they have an AK-47, I think the resistance of them people is something that everyone,
Right, but where were they getting their
Underestimated it.
weapons from?
Russia, China, they're AK-47s, right? But they've had that stuff for forever, man.
Yeah, but a 20-year war, they had to be getting new bullets,
oh, sure.
They had to be getting, shoulder-fired rockets. They had to be getting the.
Oh, every
they
time
couldn't
there's
fight-
a big conflict like that, every country races in there to these arm dealers. Didn't we just give one to Russia for, one of our pro female athletes, basketball players? So, yeah, those guys, they rush right in and sell all kinds of bullets and stuff.
They still have to get the money though
Right.
to buy that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. There's a lot of money in it,
There's
but
a
I
lot of
think-
things I think we
But
don't.
I think that we could have just walked in there and kicked their ass, and we didn't because of money. No, I think either way it was. I think those guys over there they're battle hardened. They're tough, and guerrilla war is probably the worst war to fight, from my understanding. It's not like, blue coats and gray coats, and they're on one line and we're on the other, and everyone starts marching and shooting, and the ones that doesn't run out of bullets and are better marksmen, those are the guys who are going to win. I think when, you're dealing with people who are taking, sniper shots at you and then running into markets with women and children, you can't just level it with a drone because of collateral damage, because you're trying to win hearts and minds too, right? I think that's a really difficult war to fight. I think we probably did better at it than Russia, but I don't know that anyone's ever really successfully conquered that area since Alexander the Great, man. I think it's a real tough area to fight in, just geographically, you know what I mean? Like, I get it, our special forces are the most badass, battle-hardened guys in the world, but the majority of the military you're sending over there are not special forces either, and they're fighting in high altitude. The atmosphere is different, oxygen's different, it's harder to breathe, harder to move. It's hotter than hell in the day, frigid cold at night. Logistically trying to get your supplies here and there, it's very difficult. There's spies everywhere, you know what I mean? Everybody that is herding some goats through a mountain pass is potentially a suicide bomber or a spy for the Taliban or something, I think that was a real hard war.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Without
but
leveling it, I don't know how easy it would have been to win. But I'm not a military expert
Yeah, I'm
either.
not
It's
either.
just spending my lifetime watching this and listening to different
so
professionals, analysts.
right. But so let's just back up again and look at history,
Yeah.
okay? how was it that ISIS was out of control, Trump got in there, and how long before ISIS was defeated?
Yeah, at least that's what they claim. Are they? I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I look back, and whenever you fight wars like this, like Vietnam was another one that, we fought it for a long time and then we left. Like, what was the use? Did we really win? I mean, we killed a lot of Viet Cong. Is that the measurement that we're using of whether we won or not? Or did we secure our objectives in this and walk away successful? I don't know. I don't know if you can, in my mind, I don't know if you can fully win those wars. I know Trump claimed that he annihilated and defeated ISIS, and it may be. It's hard for us to know because we're dependent on reports, right?
Right.
Because we don't live in that area. So an Islamic extremist, is he Taliban? Is he Al Qaeda? Is he ISIS? Is he some new name with the jihad? But are they all the same? I mean, did we get rid of Islamic extremism? Or would they still knock our buildings down, blow us up, behead us for being infidels if given the chance? I think there's still a lot of hatred in that part of the world for us. So I don't know that Trump, as much as I love what he did, taking the fight to those guys, I don't know that we can claim that we won it. I don't think we have. I don't think it would be safe for me and you to go to Pakistan right now. That's the metric I'm going to kind of measure that on, because technically, you know what I mean? Someone that's a Middle Eastern descent, they can walk through the streets in New York relatively safe. As safe as anyone else. I mean, obviously the streets in New York are not very safe right now. I wouldn't want to stand on the subway platform right now, but
how much of that was fear porn too to keep the war going?
Yeah. And I'm sure, like, I agree with you. There's a lot of, I think most of wars are fought for money. I think I said it before, like a dozen podcasts ago, I had made that point that I think there's it's too profitable. And this is why we keep getting these administration after administration that wants to drag us into wars. And I don't want your kids getting blown up. Right. I don't want my kids getting blown up so that someone that owns, stock options in Halliburton can make an extra couple $1 million this quarter. It sickens me.
The difficult part is, if there is no war, how do you stay the most technologically advanced superpower if you're not fighting war, continually testing out new weapon systems? I mean, there's only one good place to really do it, and that's on a battlefield,
that's the best way, right?
So then it makes you wonder, is that how we've maintained military superiority around the world? Because we continue.
I think weapon systems, we went to space, John Kennedy pushed us to go to the moon, whether we went or not. I've been watching a documentary on it lately, and it's kind of swayed me. Maybe there's a little more realistic idea that we went than what I initially never really believed it. But so there's a lot of technology in NASA that, the exploration of space and just the human. Look at what Elon Musk is doing with human nature. We always want to go further than no man's gone before. So I think for technology, we could do that without war. I think where I would 100% agree with you, though, is the one thing that you can't get in a simulation or in a plant is experience, battle experience, right? And our soldiers had more battle experience than anyone else in the world, undeniable. I don't think you could point at any other military that has fought as long, as hard, and as successfully as the U.S. military. So
that's my point.
You drop our guys over, they know what it's like to go 3 weeks and not eat much, and to be cold, to sleep in the rain, to and you take someone else that's kind of trained some, but then you drop them off in that environment, and now they're going through all that new stuff of adrenaline and fear and anxiety, where our military's kind of, at least at one point, had worked through it. Now, I don't know that our military is what it was 10 years ago either. I think politics is kind of really hurt our military some too, you know.
I'm sure it's had an effect, but I don't think you lose all that knowledge in just a couple years.
No,
I think
not all
that's
of it. But I think it put a dent in it, you know. Physically, I think our military's not as healthy as it used to be. I was looking at some pictures of just the common soldiers. They were just common soldiers, and man, there's some of them weren't. I mean, they were smaller than me, obviously, but like not as chiseled fit as what you would expect. You know, I think there's been some standards that's been shifted around, and PT stuff that's been kind of changed, so you're not pushing the guys as hard as you used to, and so maybe you're not turning out the best of the best of the best anymore. Now maybe we're getting a little bit more into mediocrity. You know, I don't know. Something to think about.
Well, it could be because enlistments are down, possibly.
Yeah.
So they had to. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hadn't seen the reports that you saw, so I'd have to
Yeah,
do
look
some
into
research to draw a
We can always jump
better
back into that,
conclusion.
you know, on a different show for sure. So going from this then, so what do you think about the leaker? Is he a traitor? Is he a hero? I've heard
There's
some
a lot.
podcasters ask this, but I hadn't really seen anyone really answer it themselves. Like they want to go to the group chat and say, hey guys, put in the comments, you know, whether you think he's a traitor or a hero. That's a tough one.
I don't know enough about the documents. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what his intentions were. I have a lot of questions about the leaker.
Right.
It's, you know what I'm saying? Like
It's weird to me that he got his hands on, because he was like a level 3 IT Air Force. I think he's
Oh,
in the Air
they're
Force.
very young.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, it's like they're
he
given
wasn't-
that kind of access to those documents.
He shouldn't have
to-
had.
I don't
that
know. I
kind of
don't know how
access,
that works.
Or at least the reports I had seen.
You would think that they'd have a
Yeah,
They'd
they'd
be-
be tiered.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah to get to those documents. You have to.
Obviously, at ground levels, there's a little bit that bleeds out,
Yeah.
but you know, the more pertinent and
So
specific
then-
and sensitive it gets, the less people have access to it. But
So then you start wondering: is there something in there they did want leaked?
good man,
You know, there's a lot of questions.
At first, I
I
thought
don't
it was
trust
psyop.
any information
right?
when it first comes
Yeah.
out. Right?
No, you got to
Yeah.
let the story breathe a little, because too many times, and I know it happened to you, it's happened to me more than I would ever want to admit, where you see a story and it looks like, dude, this is ABC. Like, that's it. This is how I feel about it. And then, you know, a month later, oh, here's the rest of the footage, or oh, here's the rest of the context of what was actually said, and you know, it wasn't edited out, and then you're like, oh crap, you know, I was really wrong about that. So yeah, I agree. Let it come out,
Well-
let it breathe a little, see.
Why were those documents allowed to soak so long online?
Yeah, it
They were
was
out
on there
there
for
for a couple,
months.
yeah, a couple months.
And no one really paid much interest to them. But the thing that kind of one of the things I was watching, at first I thought, okay, this is probably a psyop, because it did confuse Russia. Apparently the reports we
Yeah.
got was they thought it was a psyop, so they're really confused. And hey, I mean, that's part of
Yeah.
warfare, right?
Right.
Keep your enemy confused, man, and I agree with that. And you want to leak out a little disinformation to mess with your enemy's mind and use American media to do it. I'm not even gonna cry about that. Like, I get it in warfare, but once they arrested that kid, they figured out who it was, and then they arrested him. I thought, well, I mean, yeah, I guess he could be just a sacrificial lamb. I mean, isn't that kind of what happened to Epstein too? Like, you know, I think it's happening
This
to
is. I
Joe
don't know.
Biden right
I don't
now.
think you can
Like,
compare.
the sacrificial lamb. No, I'm saying the mentality of
Yeah.
you use someone to get what you want out of them, and then there's no loyalty, right? Just throw them away like trash once the usefulness is worn off. Like that there's a big swath of people in the world right now that are just rotten. You know what I mean? They're just gonna consume whatever they can out of you, and then there's no loyalty in any of this, you know. So maybe they just said, hey, you want to do your country a solid and help us out, and we'll do this psyop, and then they just pinned it on them and throw him in prison forever. Maybe. But
Maybe.
I kind of thought once it made the story more legitimate to me once I seen like, okay, now they actually figured out who this kid was and arrested him. Maybe it probably is true then, and he just leaked it like Snowden.
Again, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. What was in there? What his goal was by releasing
I seen one of his,
stuff that he released? It just didn't make sense. It
seen one of
wasn't
his
now
friends
Snowden.
that was interviewed, and he said he's not like an Edward Snowden. Like, yeah, he's against the war and against some of the stuff that's kind of going on. He thinks the government's lying to us a lot, but he wasn't particularly like hyper political about anything, and it didn't really fit his character, is what his friend said, that they used to, I guess, game and shit together. I don't know, but
Because Snowden's information was damning. It was, hey, the U.S. government's effing the population by collecting
Right.
all your data.
right.
You know what I'm saying? This was,
I don't know that we've seen all of this.
yeah, this was more like, this many people have really died in Ukraine, this many people have really died in Russia. Like, it was just, I don't know. I didn't
But
hear
it was the assessments of, if we went to war, that the U.S. military starting to doubt that they could even defeat Russia. But if we went to war with China, we could only sustain a war currently the way we sit right now for about 2 weeks. I think that is good information for the average American citizen to know before they start supporting a war that technically, we should know these things so that we're more amped to say, hey, look, we need to start manufacturing artillery shells ourselves here, right? Like, we need to step this up. We need to build our supplies up. We need more fighter jets. We need newer technology, because apparently over the years, we've kind of let that go because, we've been on top for so long. We're getting a little sloppy. Or maybe we have administrations that's just friendly with the enemies of
See,
America.
that doesn't make
Who knows,
sense to me either. This whole thing does not make sense to me. The Ukraine war has been going on since February, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
For a lot
what are we
more than
talking?
that, really, but
How long are we talking? A year and a couple months, 14
Yeah.
months? This is the other thing that doesn't make sense to me. How is it just kind of backdoor trickling some shit to them? We're all out of everything we've ever had. Our stockpiles are depleted in 14 months, but we fought a 20-year war. And it didn't affect the amount of weapons we
maybe
had.
it did, though. Maybe that's what burned up a
I
lot
don't
of
believe
our,
it. I think
our stuff.
there's something not right here. Just think about that for a minute. We were able to stock and supply a full effort for 20 years, and now you're telling me in 14 months we've depleted everything down to 2 weeks? It doesn't make sense. Something's not adding up.
Yeah. I think maybe that 20 years hurt us more than we thought.
It should have ramped up manufacturing inefficiencies.
Yeah, but when
In
we're not
20 if you-
manufacturing the stuff here,
We do. We
we're-
still make bullets.
Not
we still
all
make
of it. We import lots of stuff that we use in our military from other countries that
maybe parts and pieces and certain things, certain ingredients to make certain, whatever you want to say, whether it's copper or lead or
Right.
whatever it is. Yeah, I get certain materials being imported, but I'm sure Lake City ammo is still made in Lake City.
because there was a time where like every manufacturing plant in America switched over and was making parts for tanks, artillery shells, bullets, barrels, whatever the
I don't-
military needed, and you don't see that.
Did every manufacturer?
I mean, that's obviously exaggerated a little bit, but lots of them did.
Yeah.
The majority of manufacturing really started to help the war effort for us to be able to fight that war. Now, during the last 20 years in, the Middle East, I don't see where we've done that a lot. I don't know. Maybe we
Maybe we
did go
didn't
through
have
a lot
to
of it.
because
Maybe not.
the efficiencies
Yeah.
were so much better at building. You know what I'm saying? We have a
Right.
lot more automation now than we did then.
Yeah.
Then everything was still really hands-on. And I'm sure over that 20 years, automation got better. Like I said, just bullets themselves. I would assume that in 20 years, the bullet manufacturers that were supplying our troops got better automation, got faster at it. I have to believe. I can't believe that the technology stayed stagnant for 20 years in bullet manufacturing.
I think I'm more black pilled on that. I think you're more optimistic about that. I don't know that anyone's military is in real great shape right this second. I don't know. I think maybe we diverted a lot of, money that we should have been spending in national defense, that kind of like Social Security and everything else. It's just a giant slush fund for politicians to, the money gets allocated for it, and then they go in and gobble it up,
I don't think so, because military contracts, yes, I've heard there's kickbacks. Like if said manufacturer gets a military contract, obviously there's lobby groups or whatever that are funneling a certain portion into pockets so that they get the contract. But they still get the contract to build said products. Am I making sense here? You know what I'm saying? It's not like, okay, we're going to approve $2 trillion this year for defense, and then all these politicians just go in and rob the fund and nothing's going to defense.
Well, maybe Boeing's just not making as many F-22 Raptors or whatever as what they should have been. What we should have been buying.
I still think there's checks and balances,
I read a
though.
report that our aircraft carriers are dangerously low. Although a lot bigger naval than most countries in the world, we still have a pretty big navy. But
again, low to what standard? Do we need 10? Do we need 10 of them now, or are they built to a capacity now that 6 do what 10 used to?
I think when
I don't know.
The report from the military itself was that at one point we could, there was a point in time where we could fight just about everyone in the world at the same time and hold our own.
I don't know
now
about that.
saying
I don't know. You don't know
that we really would be in trouble if we had a two-front war. Like, we probably couldn't handle fighting two decently sized enemies at the same time.
I don't know if we've ever been in a position where we could do that. An enemy of any size.
Everyone in the world is not the size of Russia.
I shouldn't say that, because we were in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria at the same time.
And Libya, and we were all over the place, and we were still messing around in other countries too. You still had special forces down in South America getting
right. But I'm saying where you have, where you have bases set up,
there was a point where everyone in the world feared the American military, that it would have taken a lot of. We could have handled a lot of enemies at once, and held our own. Where the report from the military itself was, we probably could not fight a two-front war right now. We'd be in a lot of trouble. And that is the report from the military itself. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It just seems like weak. Our government seems weak. Our military seems weaker.
But the problem is how much of this is propaganda being leaked from other countries too, to make us believe these things.
Could be, but I see Americans saying it. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure there's some Chinese money floating around to get influencers to do whatever, right? We know that, but I'm not talking about LeBron James getting on here saying, "Hey, our military's this kind of." No one would listen to him. I'm saying there's people in the military, and then my thought was kind of like what's happened with maybe the police around the country is maybe. A lot of people got alienated and just kind of left it. And felt kind of like this isn't representing my feelings and beliefs anymore, and just didn't want to be part of it. Maybe that's happened in the military too, which to me is a terrifying thought, because then if there ever was any tyranny against American citizens, like, you just don't have the patriotic heartbeat of, loving the Constitution. It's more just, I'm just soldier following orders, son. Yep, I'm gonna stomp your head in with my boot. I don't know. Scary times. Just and so to go back to the original question was if he was a traitor or a hero. Personally, I don't know yet. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm conflicted, I'll admit, because part of me does believe you have to be able to maintain some secrecy in your military. you don't want all your secrets leaked out all the time and given to your enemies. There has to be some loyalty, especially when you're part of the machine. You know, you want it to be successful, a great fighting force. So, you know, you shouldn't be leaking stuff. But then the other half of me is like, well, you know, it's not like CNN or MSNBC is going to tell us the truth. Just puppets for the government. Like, how would we even know? And do we have the right to know? I think there is a certain amount of that we do have the right to know and should know. So I think maybe if the military was a little more transparent, if the government was more transparent with the American people, you know, maybe I would err on more of the, well, if someone's leaking then it's kind of traitorous. But right now, I don't know. I'm conflicted, man, to be honest with you. Part of me is like, you know, good for Snowden and what he did and good for, you know, this guy here. But the other half of me is like, you know, probably shouldn't be doing that. You know, we don't want military secrets getting leaked out. And
that's what I said. I don't know I just don't know enough about what his motive was. What I haven't seen the documents. All I've heard is just, you know, bits and pieces here and there of what was in them, you know, and you're getting them second or third hand, this information.
Yeah,
so
it's
how, you know,
reported, re-reported, and, you know, right, once it goes around the loop, it never really sounds the same as what it did when it first was said. What else is interesting that you want to get into? We got a little time. This is going to be a short video this week, guys. We're kind of jammed up with stuff to do, but we're trying to make it interesting for you all.
Yeah, well, you got the Bud Light thing, right?
Yeah.
That's been all over the news, obviously. What do you think?
Boycott it, man. You know what I mean? If they're not, look, if a company builds a certain base of customers and then they change their brand image and it doesn't represent the customers well anymore, then customers have the right to go somewhere else. Hopefully there's alternative beers that I personally, I think it was stupid for Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch to even do that, because they were the number one selling beer from what I seen for the last 2 years. So it's not like they were in economic disaster trouble. Oh no, let's hit the nuclear option and try to recreate our brand and rope in some new customers because we're hemorrhaging and we're going to go out of business. And that I would understand. But when, you know, I think how did they expect this to be seen? Personally, I think you had to know, like, these these guys that are watching football drinking beer, and then, you know, they put Dylan Mulvaney on there, is, you know, like, wow.
You just hit the nail on the head, though, of why I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Football.
Right.
How long? And this is the thing about the right, whatever you want to call that segment of the population that's up, all up in a frenzy right now over this thing. They don't have the testicular fortitude to see this through. Right. Just like anything else, they boycott for a week or two. In a couple weeks, they'll be at a backyard barbecue drinking Bud Light again.
I'll tell you what, typically, that's the way it works.
Not typically.
I hope you're wrong this time. And I think maybe the difference
It's not me. I don't drink beer, so I gave up a long time ago. I think you're better off not drinking it at all.
Right. But what I'm saying is what your thoughts on this, and how I think the difference this go around is the pendulum has swung really far socially in our country, and a lot of people are really starting to push back on the homeschooling's at an all-time high right now from what it ever was. And it's not just from COVID, because it's still ongoing. I
wish I could have your optimism, because
I think
it's a trendy thing. Some rednecks out there saw Kid Rock shooting up some beer and went, yeah, we ain't buying that no more.
Awesome.
You know what I'm saying? I think he's got the fortitude to see it through. Yeah. I think there are some prominent people out there that are like, you know,
There's some
but
people that
I think the majority of people just see this as a piggyback, trendy thing.
I'll support
Yeah,
your.
so and so isn't drinking it, so I'm not going to drink
I'll
it. Give it
back
2 weeks.
you on this. That when sports did this, I love sports. I loved baseball, football, boxing, not so much soccer. I watched some hockey, NASCAR. I loved. And when they just started getting political, and I mean even years ago, not just like, you know, Colin kneeling for the flag, but even before that, when they were just getting political, it was starting to just aggravate me because sports was supposed to be where everyone could kind of disconnect from politics and these social bullshit disagreements and just be fans. And it's like, you know, we got a blue jersey, you got a yellow one, your team sucks, no, your team sucks, and you could have that fun banter back and forth. It was supposed to be the retrieve from reality, right? And it started to bleed in, and you could see it. And when they really started to get political, like I boycotted it successfully myself. Now a lot of people was with me at first, like, yeah, I'm not watching football anymore. That's bullshit. And 3 weeks later, they were back. My brother-in-law was one, like, I've had the conversation with him different times, like, I'd go to his house and he's watching football, and I'm like, why are you watching this, man? You know, like, the power behind all this hates you. And like, just tuning in, like, you're giving them, you're financially supporting this stuff, and I couldn't understand, like,
You're giving them the most precious thing you have on this earth, and that's your time.
right?
Your time is
And
the only thing of
attention.
value that you truly possess on this earth is your time.
So to me, I felt the same way. Like, man, a lot of conservatives just, or people on the right, now it's a huge portion, because anyone that doesn't believe in, you know, sex changes for an 11-year-old is a right-wing conservative now. But they were really weak with, you know, where the left, man, they'll burn a city down when they're angry, right? And it's just kind of like, I think the mentality of the right of just like, look, I just want to live my life, just leave me alone, which is great in one aspect, but this is one of the negative side effects of it, of kind of being in that bubble. But I thought when Bud Light did that, truthfully, I thought, I haven't been drinking. It's been a year. I have not had a drop of alcohol in a year. But we're getting into summertime here and grilling season, and I'm not going to swear that I'll never drink a beer. I have no desire to get drunk anymore. That I probably will never do that again for the rest of my life. But, you know, to have a beer or something, I'm not opposed to. It won't be a Bud Light. I'll tell you that. You know, it won't be an Anheuser.
You're better off not even.
product,
There's no
yeah.
value there.
Right. I mean, for your body, no.
Yeah,
I kind of like the flavor of a nice cold beer when you're grilling a steak. I get it. There's something, it's kind of like, you know, beer and tacos. Or it's just,
I never even liked the taste of beer.
Yeah.
The only reason I drank it was to get buzzed.
well, yeah, there's some
I
beer
really
that
just-
I really, yeah, that
I never understood.
swamp water,
Yeah.
you know, why would, and it's an acquired taste. I don't think anyone ever drank their first beer and thought, man, this tastes really good. We were young and we would drink it to get drunk, and over time you just, you know, acquired taste, I guess. But I'll tell you, my brother-in-law, boy, he got new beer because he was a Bud Light super fan, man. Like that, he was crushed. Like, and honestly, I believe he will never, unless Anheuser-Busch really comes out and apologizes and makes this shit right, like, I don't think he'll ever buy another Bud Light product, another Anheuser-Busch product again.
I don't think they will
so.
apologize, because again, I think
Yeah, I don't know.
they're gonna let this thing blow over 2-3 weeks
Right.
from now. People will be right back in the store buying Bud
Yeah.
Light again.
We'll see. It depends. You
I-
keep people like Kid Rock out there, you know.
Again, I just don't.
know. I'm hoping that.
I don't think they have the stamina. I've seen it too many times.
And I mean, it's
With
no
too
doubt.
many-
You're right.
Too many other topics where
Where
they
they
just,
should have pushed back on it, and they just rolled over and just
Yeah.
let it accept it.
F so and so, I'm never buying their product again because of this,
Yeah.
and they're still in business doing
Right.
just fine. So somebody went back to buying their shit. You know.
no doubt. And I mean, I'm guilty. There's a certain amount of that I do myself where, you know, I never said I was going to boycott Disney, but man, Disney really made me upset as one of their customers. And there's there's a couple small things that they have to offer that I haven't found replacements for my son yet, and one for me, but I could probably live without it if I had to. But so I'm still
What is so
still a
valuable?
customer. You know, I'm
What
still
is so
at the-
valuable there that you can defy your own principles because you need this? It's not water. It's not oxygen. It's some petty entertainment.
Sure. It's
You can't find anything else to.
life sustaining. You know, no doubt, but
This is my point right here again. They did the same thing. They did it with Netflix, Disney. I mean, the list.
right.
It,
But there are some things when I get pushed far enough and I say I'm done. Like I'm probably the only redneck in America that doesn't watch NASCAR, and I haven't for
I don't
know 6-7 years.
know.
I've been done with it. Like, you know, the only sports I was just talking to someone, we were messaging back and forth, and I said, you know, the only sport really that I do is the fights with you.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of dig into the fights together, and that's it. Like I don't
It's the only
pay
sports I
attention
consume.
to baseball, football, hockey, none of it.
No.
Like I could care less.
No.
You know, there are lots of women that are way deeper into sports than I am as a man. Like I just don't have any interest in it anymore. They alienated me as one of their customers, and I just
find
like
other
it,
places
you know?
to shift my attention
Sure.
that my time is more valuable
Right.
than just sitting there consuming that,
Yeah.
right?
But I think I'm shopping for a replacement, and I think I'm close to finding something that I could kind of plug in to help me out on that front. And we'll see. I think one of the failures of the right was that they didn't build the stuff themselves. You know what I mean? They relied too heavily on those industries, and you're not giving customers any alternatives to it. And now you see companies starting to really surface and to start to give options, because I mean, yeah, let's say Folgers pissed you off and they did something as a company that didn't represent your core beliefs, but you love coffee, and every other coffee company somehow involved in this. What the hell are you going to do? You know, never drink coffee again? Well, most people probably would still drink. Maybe they would drink less, but they'd probably still drink some.
See, that's the problem with.
So you needed conservative people to build a coffee company that now you could spend your money there. And I think that's even more damaging than stopping drinking coffee altogether, is that now those X companies are watching Y companies receive those dollars that they could have gotten. I think is even more damaging to these big corporations that just seem to cram shit down your throat that they know half the country doesn't want, right? They know that. So I don't know. We'll see, because it looks like last I looked, it was like $7 billion hit so far to Anheuser-Busch. That's not nothing, you know. So we'll see. You got people like Tim Pool, Kid Rock. I mean, there's some big influencers in the country that's trying to keep this going, and maybe they can. I don't know. I seen on Joe Rogan was kind of like, what's the fuss, and was drinking one on his show or something, I guess. But yeah, that should be an interesting conversation. I think we might see pop up in the alternative media realm as some conversations between maybe influencers like Poole and Rogan, kind of debate that back and forth, why one thought it was a big deal and the other one's like, I just don't see the big deal in it. I seen the big deal in it, though. I don't think it was even, I don't think conservatives would have really done much if this was just, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that list of letters, but the letter people, right? I don't think they cared. I think it was the particular person that they put in there is really kind of seems like they're really trying to influence children. You know what I mean? Like, I think that was the issue. Like, leave our kids alone. You want to be a grown, because Jack Daniels did it. They had RuPaul on theirs. They had a drag commercial, and it made some people angry. But I think in the end, they lost some money, but I don't think it was as bad as Anheuser. Not the last I seen, it wasn't as bad. Because they're still, it's an adult, man. You're an adult. Do what you want. You want to wear a skirt, wear a skirt. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Don't cram that. Don't try to brainwash my child into that. Leave the kids alone. And I think that is where I think they went too far. And now I think the backlash, I think this is more serious than any one that we've seen yet. But we'll see. I hope they continue.
We'll see.
I hope they punish them. Yeah. We'll circle back. Yeah.
See,
we'll circle back to it.
See where this ends up.
But things are going in a bad direction, and I think all in all, like, I watched a video from Poole, and he thinks maybe culturally, like, we're actually starting to win. I don't think so. I'm more black-pilled. I think this went on way too long with very little resistance from people with traditional values, and I think that we should have pushed back on this a long time ago, and we didn't. So I seen a report, like the school shooting with the church, and like they blame conservatives for that. And I was driving and I seen an eagle above the road, and I was pointing it out to my little son. And he seen it, and he was like all excited about it. It was neat. It was flying around. It was weird, and it was just acting weird. And I kept watching it, like, wow, what's this eagle doing? And as we got closer, I seen it was fighting with a little bird. Just a small, I mean, it looked real. It was probably the size of a blue jay or something, or a robin, but it looked really small to this eagle. And this bird's chasing this eagle all over the place. And I thought for a second, wow, what is that little bird doing? And it hit me, well, it's got a nest in that tree right there, and that eagle is probably eyeballing some chicks, and yeah, mama bird or daddy bird's out there protecting their babies. And they would fight this big eagle protect their children. I thought, that's the way it's supposed to be. You know what I mean?
So you're saying that bird has more conviction than the right does in this country?
Yeah, absolutely. Black pilled, man. I ate it right then. I'm like, we should have. This was our fault. It was our fault because we didn't push back against this. And when we seen it coming, all of us did. But it was just easier to say, live and let live. Because I'm very libertarian like that too. I don't want government in every aspect of my life. I don't want government in every aspect of anyone's life. I don't want all these laws and rules, and just leave people alone. But they're socially, I guess there does have to be some parameters of what we're willing to tolerate as a culture, as a country, as a species. Mm-hmm. And man, some of the things that's going on right now in the world, I can't believe humans haven't gone beyond this. We're not, like, I'm going to paraphrase Ian a little bit from Tim Pool, man. Like, I know he's a hippy dippy weirdo sometimes, but like, let's push out to the stars and let's go explore space and find things that we can agree on. And that's what we should be doing. The betterment of humanity, not the degradation of it and the destruction of it. But
we're still too primitive. There's still too much of that.
Yep.
Conquer.
Yeah.
Rape and pillage, gather resources. Yep. There's still too much of that baked into us.
Yeah, we're not there yet. And hopefully if we've learned anything over the last couple of years is that, hey, everything that a lot of people would say in the background, like, hey, this could happen someday, and people would laugh at them. Like, we see now, realistically, it can happen, and it can happen very easily. And it is happening, and if we don't push back, like, we're going to get steamrolled in this, and but I don't know. I don't know if we can recover from this. I hope so, but I would love, I don't think anyone should have blind loyalty to the Stars and Stripes. Like, I love this flag and this country so much, like, if Joe Biden wanted to come in and snip my kid, I'd say fine. It's good for America. Like, no, and not blind loyalty, but there should be some loyalty to it. There should be some pride in it. I think it's if you're not in a country that doesn't kind of unify its people, you don't have a country. Like, so. Well,
Well, it's unifying its people. It's just unifying to a different segment that's growing,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's kind of how it looks. Like,
That's exactly what it looks like. There's there's people that are very loyal to them now that are not the Stars and Stripes, and I just thought about like World War II, Vietnam, the Korean War, all these wars that all these Americans have died with this flag, and just what would they think right now? Like, people are legitimately scared to put an American flag on their porch because they might get their house burned down. It's just sad.
well, I haven't personally heard anybody going that far.
Oh, yeah. Not in this area. We're not in a big city, but yeah, there's, there's all kinds of stories out there. People pulling their flags down, putting fake signs in their windows saying we support BLM. Please don't hurt us. I mean, there's just thousands of those stories out there. They're pretty easy to find, and it shouldn't be that way. You should be okay to even disagree. You know what I mean? Like you want to say you don't like the flag, fine. If I want to say I don't like your flag, fine.
That's definitely missing from our culture, the being able to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Now it seems like it's just my way or no way.
It's a war right now. I think it's yeah. I've never seen it this way in my life. It's just. And I think when you look at socially where we're at right now, like, not in a good place, and then economically, not in a good place. Gas almost $4 a gallon again, probably go higher. Eggs are more expensive I've ever seen them in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at, globally, our stance, and all our enemies are getting together, forming alliances behind us now, which, they've always tried to do, but we could put a lot of pressure on them not to. And now you see our allies are starting to bleed off and to get into some of these alliances too. And I'm like, yeah, this is not good times. So I think the next year or two are going to be
we
really
definitely
hard
face some
ones.
challenges.
Yeah.
No doubt. All the indicators, are kind of leaning in that. I shouldn't say all the indicators. Our indicators leaning in that direction.
Right.
That, things could definitely get more difficult.
Yeah.
Over the next 12 months.
Hopefully people put some extra food in their pantries and, try to weather it out. I mean, humans find a way.
Mm-hmm.
They do. We always have, but it doesn't make it easy or fun. So I feel bad looking. My optimism's so broken right now for everything. I don't know. I hope that we can push back, recover from this, but when I watch one president's arrested for clerical errors on a form, and another president that I don't know, man, like they're the Sopranos of like just a crime family, and no one even wants to ask them a question. Like, where are we as a country?
I guess the next month will show whether or not they're the people have finally got enough backbone to stand behind their conviction.
We'll see. The Democrats opened the door for it, for sure. Now we'll see what conservatives do. Like,
whether or not, my thing is whether or not they'll keep up with this boycott,
right,
or whether or not Anheuser-Busch will recover in a couple months, right, and their profits are very good.
But I think they're all kind of interweaved, because as you see, like, if you see culturally a big swath of the country telling Anheuser-Busch to get back and not buying their stuff, that inspires conservative DAs around the country to say, you know what, we're going to bring charges against these guys. They did it to the president. Socially, there's enough of the country behind us. We have some support, or vice versa. If you see that
won't go anywhere. I can almost promise you that's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a problem if it doesn't.
It won't be, because it'll be just like any other situation. It'll just be okay. Like some DA will bring some charges, and it'll make a little bit of news, and then the judge or the whatever process that goes through, it will just get dismissed or thrown
Oh,
out
man.
on not enough, no grounds for it, and then
I think normally it's always the way the rights kind of conducted itself, but I think now it's a little bit, times are different. I think there's a nasty fight coming. I really believe that people are primed for it and they're not gonna back down. I think Trump broke the wheel when he became president.
they're not primed.
And
for
I
it.
think he broke the wheel again when they actually arrested him and set that precedent.
No,
I don't know, man. Like there are
I
people
think
that
you're-
are angry.
you're being joyfully optimistic. You have
Yeah, that's
way,
not optimism for me.
you have way more.
I
You have
think,
way more confidence
yeah, it's
than
not
I do
optimism.
because
I see a lot of people that are just genuinely pissed off about what happened to a president that 70 million people in the country voted for, and I'd say half of them people fanatically love the man, it's like fanatically love him. And then when you look at what they're doing with the kids and just culturally what's going on, like it's a lot. I think the idea with the frogs being in the pot and slowly turning the temperature up, and they never really realize that they're cooking until it's too late, and then they're dead, right? Like, but if you threw them in a pot of hot water, they'd jump out right away. They'd feel it, and I think a portion of the country got greedy and they went all in really hard. I think it shocked a lot of people. Like, wow, we're a lot further down. How did this happen? Because now you got like 2A's always been under attack, right? But man, it's really, I mean, there comes a point where there has to be some lines drawn of, look, these are our rights. We're not going to give them up. Get that, or you're just going to give them up.
they'll give them up.
I think some people will, for sure.
I think the majority of people aren't even paying attention. I think it's a very small segment on the right that actually is plugged in and paying attention, and the vast majority of people. Look, I saw we pulled into the gas station, and I saw a regular blue-collar construction guy walking out with a case of Bud Light.
Yeah.
He was tatted up, normal construction guy.
Right.
Because he still had the company vehicle, so I know he worked construction.
Yeah. It's roughneck,
He threw it right in the back and drove out of there.
So either A, he didn't really know of it, or B, just doesn't care,
I bet he doesn't even know.
Yeah, for that, so I would say he probably doesn't know,
That's
It's hard to get it
my
out
point.
there. They control the narrative,
That's
right?
and that's my point, and that's
Even
why.
with this is,
And that's why, even though they didn't arrest, they indicted Trump. Even though they indicted him, so
he was arrested. My understanding was, look it up, but he was fingerprinted. He was actually technically arrested, is what I understood it to be. They indicted him. He showed up. He was arrested. He was released right away. Is the report that I read, how they broke it down. So, but whether he was indicted or technically arrested, they opened Pandora's box with that one, because now you're going to see, because it was political. It absolutely is political. Everybody knew it. Even CNN admitted that this was political and there really wasn't nothing there,
Yeah, they said he wasn't handcuffed. There was no mugshot, but he was fingerprinted like any other person charged with the crime.
Because the Secret Service negotiated this stuff because of who he is. He got some different treatment, but
Understand this. The Democrats sent a very loud message on January 6th to make sure that never happens again.
right,
They can throw Trump in a jail cell and nothing's going to happen.
right. They've been sending the message. January 6th, they sent it. Last week, when a couple of capitals had, insurrections done to them, and the way they handled that, like, it's peaceful, mostly fiery, but peaceful protest. They continuously set the example of how this is going to be handled. If you are violent and you believe things on the left, you can do whatever you want and nothing's going to happen, You're on the right and you love your flag, you're a terrorist that's a threat to the country, and they're going to throw you in a dark hole somewhere, probably without any legal representation, and who knows, getting waterboarded in Guantanamo Bay somewhere, I don't know. Who would have ever believed 20 years ago that within 20 years, this would happen to the country, you know? The prophet, Alex Jones. Yeah, you know. So what do you think?
Yeah, we did an hour.
Yeah.
Let's call it quits.
Yeah.
Be kind to each other out there.
Yep. Thanks for watching, guys.